I've been told that people seem to think that I love to hear myself talk. And it is very true. I do love to hear myself talk. They'll never get me to admit it, but I do. All right, let's see what Brendan Herrera has got for us. Probably going to have some opinions on this. I know. Shock and awe. Horror, even. All right, let's see. What do we got?
What is up, you sexy YouTube mother lovers, and welcome
Why,
back
thank you.
to actually something we don't get to do very often, a video where we get to talk about gun laws and say that we have some good news.
Good news!
Gasp.
Have you, as a law-abiding American citizen, ever wanted to own a machine gun?
Every day of my life, I have wanted to own a machine gun ever since I took a shot with my first gun that I used.
There's a bear shit in the woods?
If the answer to that question is no, I would recommend getting your testosterone checked. Machine guns
No need,
are
brother.
All right, seriously, we don't have to do that every fucking time. Well, there's apparently
Yes, you
a few
do.
states that are proposing a new law that would allow you to do just that. Now, machine guns are already technically legal in the United States, but incredibly heavily regulated. Half the shit I have behind me on that wall is a machine gun, but I am a zero.
I don't know if he's going to talk about it, but for those of you who don't live in the United States or don't know, you can own a machine gun. They are taxed. You have to get a tax on them specifically, and the FAA, no, it's not the FAA. It's whatever the federal firearms. I think it is the FAA, the Federal Firearms Commission or administration has to be aware of it, and you have to pay a tax to them every year, maybe. But you can own one. It's just getting the permit to own one and paying the tax. It's a pretty hefty tax. Is incredibly prohibitive.
702 FFL with SOT.
FFL is what it is.
Very complicated way of saying I've got hella licensing that allows
Yep.
me to do that as a dealer. Now, the average American citizen can still buy a machine gun, but it has to be a transferable machine gun,
Yep.
meaning that it was a machine gun that
Before
was registered
86.
with the NFA prior to May of 1986.
Yep.
And since that's a very limited amount of guns, they're very expensive, supply and demand and all that. But what if there was a way for an average non-felon, law-abiding gun owner to be able to buy a new production machine gun?
Every day. No, it's not with the ATF. It's a different organization. I'm pretty sure. It might be under the ATF, maybe, but I didn't think it was. That was the weird part about it. But I might be misremembering. You might be correct, but I might be, and I might just be an idiot. But yes.
Well, good news. New legislation has been proposed in several states, possibly allowing you to do just that.
And please, for the love of God, make this federal precedent. If this please make it go to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court adjudicate on it. Abolish the ATF. They are a regulatory body, not a lawmaking body. They cannot impose laws. Get rid of them.
Something I'm actually kind of surprised hasn't happened before, but it's exploiting a loophole in the Hughes Amendment to the Firearm Owners Protection Act.
Okay, the legislation that makes machine gun ownership illegal.
Which ironically is the exact amendment that prohibits civilian machine gun ownership of a machine gun that was made after 1986. So the Firearm Owner Protection Act was Ronald Reagan's bill that, was supposed to do just that, protect firearm owners. But unfortunately, a Democrat member of Congress, Hughes, tacked on the Hughes Amendment, basically limiting the window for you to be able to register a machine gun under the NFA to May of 1986, meaning that all the machine guns that were on the market were all that American civilians would be able to buy moving forward. You couldn't register a new one. But there's a new bill that's being proposed in places like Kentucky, West Virginia, Idaho, and hopefully soon in Texas.
Kentucky,
Kentucky, West Virginia, Idaho,
based,
and hopefully
probably
soon in Texas, that gets around that law in a honestly very interesting way. It's a very new concept, and just like constitutional carry, it might be one of those things that happens in one state and then starts spreading all over the country.
Oh, for the love of God.
If there's one thing every red-blooded American wants to do, it's spreading them. Who writes these? Jokes aside, this is actually a very interesting subject. I have not seen a loophole exploited quite this way, and I'm curious to see if this actually has legs. We're going to dive a little bit into the details, but what this might be is one of the final nails in the coffin that finally puts the NFA away.
So, An act relating to the establishment of the Office of Public Defense, whereas the General Assembly finds and declares that the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution declares that, quote, a well-regulated militia, comma, I think independent clause, being necessary for the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. There are a lot of different clauses in there, and that's where a lot of the legal arguments are coming from. And whereas in the District of Columbia v. Heller, 554 U.S. 570, 2008, the United States Supreme Court explained that the Second Amendment's prefatory militia clause announces the amendment's purpose and serves as a clarifying function as to the amendment's protections. To that end, the Second Amendment guarantees that the people's unrestricted access to arms to repel invasions and suppress insurrections, render large standing armies unnecessary, and resist tyranny. And whereas the Supreme Court explained that the people protected by the Second Amendment unambiguously refers, quote, unambiguously refers to all members of the political community and not as unspecified subset, close quote, and presumably extends to all Americans, close quotes. And whereas the Supreme Court further explains that the original meaning of the term arms used in the Second Amendment includes, quote, weapons of offense or armor of defense, close quote, semicolon, quote, anything that a man wears for his defense or takes into his hands, or useth in wrath to cast at or strike another, close quotes, and at a minimum, quotes, all firearms, close quotes, and thus the Supreme Court explained, quote, the Second Amendment extends prima facie, I know that word, I don't remember how to pronounce it, comma, to all instruments and constitute it's a little blurry, and constitute bearable arms, even those that were not in existence at the time of founding. TLDR of what this is saying that the militia clause about it is only in service of explaining, but it is not a limiting factor. The fact that the Second Amendment guarantees the people, another way of wording it is being necessary for the security of free states, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Also, for a well-regulated militia, it is also these things as well. It is explaining the entirety of the rest of it, but put at the beginning. So their argument is, at least in the Supreme Court, that a well-regulated militia is not the limiting factor of it, and that all Americans, regardless of their status, as long as they are of the political class, which means that they are not denied political privileges, they are allowed to have any arms that they can. And arms does not, in fact, be limited to arms of the day. It is all arms that could exist currently and in the future.
Because if there's one thing I've been firm on in this channel...
Big, huge.
Man, the innuendo's getting crazy. Because if there's one thing I've been firm about in this channel, it's that the NFA is gay.
He says it. Finally, thank you. Very true.
Isn't that comfy? I'm also going to talk to you about Lear Capital. You ever
Oh,
thought about
boy.
investing in metals? Like precious metals, not
No.
like the heavy metals that are in all of your food and probably in your testicles. Precious metals are a great...
Hey, I don't got no metals in
they're
my
never worth
testicles.
nothing.
I only
They're
have
actually,
plastics,
you
all
know,
right?
The growth in the tech sectors, silver and
I
gold
like my
are very,
plastics.
very useful
They
for
taste
practical
very good.
applications,
Thank
which is
you
one of
very
the reasons
much.
why they've kind of shot through the roof recently. A lot of people got a little scared with the recent correction in the market. I'm not one of them. I still have my holdings. Diamond hands.
That logo's a
But the
bit
people I've
crunchy
talked to,
there.
especially over at Lear Capital, they're still predicting $6,000 gold and $200 silver at some point in the future. And given the rate of inflation in the last, 50 to 100 fucking years, it's better than the shitcoin known as the US dollar. Because for fuck's sake, if the government does not stop printing money, we're going to be in a very, very bad way.
That's very true.
Somebody should Run for office and fix that.
We're going to let that hang in the air for about a minute. Microplastics, yummy, yummy. You're not wrong. Microplastics are yummy, yummy. I love them so much.
Anyway, Lear Capital is a fantastic resource if you're looking to learn more about investing in precious metals. I keep trying to tell Lear that if they're trying to sell people on, information and learning more about investing and investing in precious metals, it's about learning. You should have like a Lear, a Learing center. So like Learing.
I'd go to this Learing Center.
Center.com, but apparently some place in, Somalia or Minnesota already has that taken. Long
It was same place.
story short, it's not too late to invest, and you can download free information from them over at Lear Capital. You
Man,
can
he
call
cooked
them
them.
at 800
That was-
855-7272,
Oh, no.
or you can go to learbrandon.com. That will be in the description and in the pinned comment as well, of course. And you can receive up to $20,000
Well, I'm sold.
in free
I'm sold on
bonus
heavy metals.
with
What
a
about you?
qualified purchase. And once again, for
Totally
no
sold.
reason in particular, I feel like I'm going to walk back over to the bar/desk while also thanking SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute, for once again being a sponsor of the channel. We greatly appreciate them. If you ever wanted to get your start in gunsmithing and weapons technology, you don't know where to start. Maybe
You want to
check
know what? I'm going to add that to the list. Because I'm being advertised a website. And maybe there might be something there that I could try
them
out.
out. Links are in the description and in the pinned comment.
So without being too long-winded about it, here's the scoop. State Representatives Chris Rose in West Virginia and TJ Roberts in Kentucky have proposed some new legislation. It's
This is
basically
local
exploiting a
legislation,
legal
right?
loophole that might allow average, everyday, law-abiding, non-felon
By the way, might be time to move to Kentucky. Might be time to move to West Virginia. Might be time to move to Idaho. I don't know. Listen, I'll never tell you when I move, but there will be signs.
citizens to buy newly manufactured machine guns directly from their state governments. And this isn't like
Hell
some of those
yeah.
bills that you've seen where it's like 2A sanctuary states, or like the thing they tried to do in Texas where they said, oh, suppressors are legal as long as they're in Texas. Because then you always had the NFA to worry about, and even though it's legal in the state, it may not be legal federally. But these bills are unique in a way.
So just a bit of clarification on that. There are like two sets of laws that the average United States citizen lives under. There is the state law, which is the law of the state in which you reside. And then there is the federal law. And oftentimes there are things that are not illegal under state law, but are illegal federally, and you can be prosecuted for them federally. Marijuana was a good example of that. In fact, I believe that marijuana is still illegal on in the federal government. Let me see. Let me see. Yes, marijuana is still illegal federally. Just most states have passed laws that state it is no longer illegal in that state to essentially be part of or to be utilizing. What does that mean? That means the federal government still has the power to prosecute you under federal marijuana legislation because it's still a whatever scheduled drug it is. That's why federal employees can't have it. That's very interesting. So I'm going to be wondering what's going to happen with this, because this could be a, quote, constitutional crisis. And I hope it is, because I think that we have the momentum, at least to a Second Amendment supporters have the momentum to actually effectuate federal legislation. I pray every day
that they exploit federal law. And basically what this comes down to is a clause within the Hughes Amendment itself, basically saying that the ban on ownership or transfer of newly manufactured machine guns doesn't apply when it was transferred by a government, in this case, the state government. So these state legislators begged to
That is fucking slippery as fuck. That's hilarious.
ask the question, does that mean we can just set up a government agency that sells machine guns to the people?
Yes.
And from some of the attorneys that I've spoken to in a lot of gun rights groups, the answer seems to be, yeah, probably.
It's not illegal. The law says private citizens. It doesn't say public entities.
Never in my life have I ever heard of anybody trying to exploit this loophole, and I'm currently wondering why it's taken this long. But yeah, if this legislation
Because the prevailing thought is the spirit of the law was in order to block something, and that spirit of the law translates into the public entities doing it. However, we don't live in a society in which values the spirit of the law anymore. We live in a society in which values the letter of the law. And the letter of the law doesn't explicitly say that. That's funny.
gets passed, it looks like it would probably hold up in court. Luckily, TJ Roberts is actually a friend of mine. We go way back to the YAL days. I got to talk to him on the phone a little bit earlier and kind of explain this legislation a little bit. He was, of course, one of the sponsors for the bill in Kentucky. So the way the bill is written, to my understanding, if you are eligible to buy a
the only thing that matters is you have a favorable judge.
firearm in the state of Kentucky, meaning you don't
And
have a
right
history
now,
of mental illness,
the Supreme Court's looking pretty
you don't have a history of
favorable.
domestic violence, all the typical things that you would need to pass a federal NICS check anyway. So as long as you pass all of that, you would be eligible to buy a machine gun from the Office of Public Defense. So if you wanted to buy a full auto AR-15, you could do that.
Hell yeah,
and not
brother.
only would the government be okay with it, they would be your dealer. And not for the inflated price of a transferable. I mean, every day
I would totally buy a squad automatic weapon. Those things are fucking cool.
people buy clapped out transferable AR-15s or M16s and what have you for 15, 20 grand. I was told that this would be for market price plus a $250 transfer fee, which is nothing.
Yeah, that's like, holy shit, dude. $20,000. I'm gonna take more like, man, what would be a market price on that thing? Actually, I don't know. What is the market price of a M4 carbine? $1,000. So for like 1,000 to 1,400, 1,650, 20,000. So it'd be from 20,000 to maybe approximately 2,000. Amazing. That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Compared to what transferable machine guns go for nowadays. This is cool for a lot of reasons. One, you get to buy a fucking machine gun from the government. Never would have thought that would be in the cards. The other one is there's actually a pretty good argument that this is a good revenue generation tactic for the state.
I can see
If the
that.
state of Kentucky was to sell 10,000 machine guns this way, which is not unreasonable, you generate $2.5 million in tax revenue just based on the fee alone. It's literally the same argument that people used for marijuana legalization. How much the tax revenue would generate for the state. In fact, one of the things Kentucky's working on right now is getting their
But that's
state
still
income
federally
tax
illegal.
down to zero. And this is one of the ways you could probably do that. I mean, according to Google, right now, Kentucky ended their 2025 fiscal year with a $312 million general fund surplus. And so far,
That's pretty
since
good.
2018, they've moved their state income tax from 5% incrementally down to currently 3.5%. So there's
Damn.
a chance Kentucky could do the most based shit ever right now, which is not only essentially legalize machine guns, but also do it while taking their income tax down to zero. I mean, if Thomas Jefferson was here to hear that sentence, he would have a throbbing heart. His heart would beat faster because he would be so excited.
Absolutely.
Now, currently, the way
That's
that these
exactly
bills are being
what
written,
would be-
it would only work within the state that the bill passes in. So if you were to purchase a machine gun from the state of West Virginia,
If you did that and you brought it to another state that did not have a law like this, you are capital F fucked.
it would only then allow you to keep that in West Virginia.
Yep.
If you bought it in Kentucky, they would have to stay in Kentucky. Now,
Yep.
what I was told was that if you want to sell it to another individual, as long as they're in your state, all they have to do is pay that $250 transfer fee, and you're able to pass that along just like it was a transferable machine gun.
Yep.
Which is pretty fucking cool. Now, what I'm not sure about that I think might be kind of fun to explore is if multiple states end up passing this legislation. What if you can get something kind of like reciprocity, like you have for concealed carry, where if you have your concealed carry permit in, let's say, Georgia, that it also applies to then Texas or wherever.
That's going to depend on what flavor of Kool-Aid is in power in the state. I 100% guarantee it. But if this does pass in 25 years, regardless of what flavor of Kool-Aid is in power, that will be honored in most states.
If let's say Texas were to pass a bill that were very similar to this, then maybe you could actually buy machine guns that were transferred from the state of West Virginia or Kentucky, and then you start building this basically NFA-proof infrastructure across the country,
Good.
at least the based states. I don't know if that's something that's feasible, but it opens up a lot of very cool opportunities that really weren't on the table before. Now, the big argument from the gun side of things is, oh, well, what's this going to do to value of transferable machine guns? You know, people saying, oh, you want
it's going to knock them all the way down, brother.
and the NFA, well, what happens to all the value of, people who've, been collecting transferables for years? The answer is I own several transferable machine guns, and yes, this would directly impact the value of that.
Good, knock them down. I want my machine gun, knock it down.
I would lose tens of thousands of dollars in value probably overnight. And my answer to that?
Fuck them.
I don't give a fuck. It's a stupid
Fuck 'em.
law. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. Anybody who's not willing to do the objective right thing, especially when it comes to something like gun rights, a constitutionally guaranteed right, just because it's going to negatively impact them financially, shouldn't be anywhere near the decision.
I'm going to say it again.
I think it's cool,
Fuck 'em.
and it's another nail in the coffin to the NFA. I mean, truth be told, we've been chipping away at the NFA for a long time now. It
Good.
kind of started with arm braces, kind of killing the SBR, SBSs, short-barreled rifle, short-barrel shotgun rules. The slide fire, like the bump stocks, were kind of a big hit. And then, later on, it eventually led to the FRT, which is, if you don't have access to machine guns or an SOT or transferables or anything like that, an FRT is a pretty good stand-in. Not to mention with new lawsuits that are coming out right now, there's a pretty good chance the Supreme Court actually strikes down things like SBRs and SBSs and silencers from the NFA. Because according to a Supreme Court ruling, I believe from 1937, the only reason that suppressors
Jesus.
and SBRs and everything like that, the only reason the NFA was allowed to pass in the first place as constitutional is because you were registering a tax, not the firearm. But
Yep.
thanks to the big, beautiful bill, although we didn't get the win we
Which is what a lot of people don't understand is when it comes to gun legislation like this is you are registering a tax, and they're really stretching the definition of that.
trying to get, which was the removal of SBRs and suppressors from the NFA entirely. They did remove the tax, which means it's now a $0 tax stamp. So if you're not registering the tax, what the fuck are you registering if not the gun? So there's a real good constitutional argument to be made there. If the Supreme Court takes it up, pretty good chance we can beat the NFA on that grounds as well. But my point being is it's like a death from a million pinpricks. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the NFA was just kind of this monolith. You really couldn't fuck with it. But even just in the last 20 years or so that I've been
Tear it
paying
down.
attention to the gun industry.
Tear it all down.
We've chipped away at it piece by piece. And
You're gonna head out now? Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Have a great night.
I think this is the next domino to fall. The question is, will it pass? From what I've been told,
Please. Yes.
probably not this time.
Damn it.
These
No.
are bills that are probably going to have to be
Oh.
revised and then put forward again at a new legislative session.
My heart
But this was an
can't
idea
take
that
much
didn't even
anymore.
exist a year ago, and now we've got multiple states starting to come forward with similar legislation. So I think this has legs. I really do. And when one state does it and they can successfully defend it,
Yeah,
I
when
think
one
a lot
domino
of other
falls.
base states are going to follow suit. And I already have people in the state legislature that I'm talking to right now in Texas to make sure that we are one
God, I hope you get elected. Please, for the love of God, get elected.
of those based states. Because you have my word on this. If somebody in Texas puts forward this legislation before the state house to try to get it passed, a similar bill to this, I will do everything in my power to make sure that it does pass. We will hold rallies. We will publicly call out state reps that don't back it. I will move heaven and earth to make sure that Texas does not get outshined by Kentucky or West Virginia. Nothing
Hell
on
yeah,
you
brother.
guys, but we have to have a little state pride here. Yeah, this is something that really wasn't on my radar until recently, so I figured you guys would get a kick out of this because this is the first time in my entire lifetime that it seems like there's an actual path to machine gun legalization, or at least effective machine gun legalization. Would I still like to see an eventual future without the NFA in its
Yes.
entirety? Of course, but little incremental changes we can do along the way to just kind of coast our way there.
Taking
this is
one
generational
brick
change.
every
Shit doesn't
day
happen
is
overnight.
just
We
as
gotta do it one
effective
bite at a time. And
as
this-
hitting
this
it
seems
once
like a
in
very
one day.
significant bite. That being said, I'll let you guys get back to your day. I'm excited to do a range video here soon.
We will
I feel like I haven't been doing enough
dismantle
shooting lately.
this oppression.
Kind of had a few things going on. But again,
Get rid
I
of 'em.
appreciate you guys staying with me through everything. And as always, I will see you sexy YouTube mother lovers in the next video.
Hell yeah.
Thanks. Oh, one more thing.
Oh,
I'm
one more
actually
thing.
going to be doing a machine gun helicopter shoot soon. A couple
Oh,
friends
that's
of mine
pretty
are going
cool.
to get together. We're going to film some stuff. Shooting machine guns from a helicopter is something that I've
Going-
done a couple times before. It's
Going
it's
hog
a lot of
hunting?
fun. But to help raise a little bit of money for the campaign before the general election, where we have to fight the Democrats in November, we're doing a giveaway. If you want to come out and join me and a couple friends in shooting machine guns out of a helicopter, I've got some personal favorites picked out. Every
Oh,
donation to the campaign
I'd love
in
to,
increments of $5
but I don't live in
is an entry
Texas.
to that giveaway. So $5 is one entry, $10 is two, $100 is 20. Quick math. It goes towards our war chest to go fight the good fight, but it also is an opportunity to do some cool shit. So the links for that will be in the description and in the pinned comment.
Damn. Hell yeah. Bro, I never thought that I would live in a world in which abolishing the ATF and abolishing the FFL tax would possibly be on the table. But now I'm happy that I was born in the time that I was born.